morning. You're very welcome back. Now, for 14 years, she flew the flag for Ireland on the world stage, competing at 2 Olympic Games, claiming 17 national titles and rewriting the record books as one of Ireland's most successful sprinters.
And she's just announced her retirement. It is an honour to welcome the Bandon Bullet, Phil Healy. Hello, Phil.
How are things?
Good
Thanks
morning.
for having me.
Good morning.
It's so lovely to have you here because you have given us so many amazing memories. But after that news that you've decided to retire, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I suppose it is the end of an era. I suppose I've given so much time to the sport and to that Irish Fest, and I'm privileged to have such a great career over the last number of years. And I suppose it's a decision that comes for every athlete, no matter what the sport is. And for me, I always wanted to go out on my own terms. I never wanted to be forced out through injury or different things like that. So I suppose there had been many times where I've contemplated retiring. And I suppose even during the year of 2024, I was like, okay, this is the Olympic Games. Am I going to stop after Paris? And my physio at the time was like, look, forget about that. You'll know when you know. And I suppose when you come forth to the Olympic Games, it's very easy to continue on. Do you know?
Yeah, I can imagine.
You obviously making a decision 14 years is incredible, but competing at the very top where milliseconds is what you're dealing with. It's a difficult game, mentally and physically. And what was the decision now that, right, the time is right to move on?
Yeah, it's the game of the finest of margins. Like, as you said, we are fighting for milliseconds all the time. And I suppose when you've devoted so much of your time to the sport, there comes a time where you're like, okay, there's more to life than sport. Like, we trained 6 days a week, 11 months of the year, and just 1 month off. So to do that for 14 years in a row takes its toll mentally and physically. And I suppose I've done so much in the sport, and I probably did struggle a little bit with finding form and performing to the level that I wanted to perform in 2025. I had to get shoulder surgery just before Christmas, and I suppose that kept me distracted for a little while. I was rehabbing that back, and I wanted to return to training and see if I actually had the desire to continue on. And I suppose I didn't have that anymore, and I suppose your motivations change. And again, as I said, I wanted to go out on my terms, and I have no regrets in the sport, and I'm happy to leave.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you understand what Phil's talking about, you know, when you kind of know it's time to step away. But we have to talk about the moments that you've given us. Like, first of all, that Tokyo, which we all know was so weird because of how it was held, was phenomenal. But then Paris, Phil, that Paris, that team that he had, we were like, what was it like to be like the whole country? You've lifted the spirits of everybody.
It was absolutely crazy, and I suppose Tokyo and Paris were completely different experiences, because I was like, I don't want to go to the most non-Olympic Olympic Games in 2021 when it was like pure COVID restrictions and no friends, family or anything there. So then I suppose to have Paris Olympic Games, all our friends and family could go. The amount of Irish was absolutely crazy. Walking into a stadium, 80,000 people, the amount of like Irish flags, people dressed in green, like you could actually hear your name being called. There was that many Irish people.
Wow.
But I suppose we were away in our own bubble for so long, so we didn't realise the impact that we were having. And to come fourth at the Olympic Games was beyond our expectations, to shatter the national record. And it was a very special team to be a part of.
Like, were you aware of it? Were you aware of the buzz behind the team? No.
No, absolutely not. I suppose we had so much success in that summer of 2024, winning the European medal in Rome just a couple of weeks before the Olympic Games. And I suppose athletics is a minority sport, so it had brought so much media attention towards the relay. And we were blessed with Paris because it was pretty much obviously on the same time zone, so we had so many new fans to the sport. And it was just unbelievable to see the impact post the Games. Like, there was so many new kids trying to join athletic clubs, and athletic clubs hit capacity. And I suppose people forget sometimes, like, our sport is built on volunteers, and like my coach is a volunteer right from grassroots all the way to Olympic level. So like, we wouldn't have our success unless we had the volunteers giving up so much of their time.
It's on it, and to see like an awful lot of people who have taken part in community games, and you know, I saw kids out who were just passing batons to each other in parks and on their roads. Like, you can see the impact immediately, right? But honestly, to think of an Irish relay team competing at a world level, it had never been really thought of before.
Absolutely not. And I suppose in Tokyo 2021, we made the mixed relay final, and that was the first time an Irish relay team has ever made an Olympic final. So then for the women to go on and make the final again in 2024 was just superb. And I suppose now we go to major championships, and not only are we making finals, we're contending for the medals as well. And countries fear when they see Ireland now, which is wonderful to see, and the growth of our sport across the world.
And for you to have been there for 14 years, like, you know, you've seen the full spectrum of the way the game has grown as well, which is phenomenal. For you as one of the older people in that team, though, and seeing the likes of Rashida and Sophie and everybody coming through, like, how has that been? Like, because you obviously had people that you looked up to, but then you were probably the person that they looked up to.
Absolutely, and I suppose I did set the bar many years ago, and I did have the individual records over 100 and 200, and now Rashida has them. So it is great to see that. I suppose we always had to up our game, and records are there to be broken, and that mark has improved. So I suppose to be a part of that transition in the sport, and inspiring the other girls,
to set the standards.
Exactly.
You know, that's what they had to, you know, you had to set the standards and they had to get to there.
To follow, and I suppose everybody sees us out racing together, but we also have to race individually, and we're knocking each other off those relay spots as well. So like, it is super competitive, but no, there's a wonderful buzz amongst the team, and it's super to see. Like, I was the only girl to represent Ireland in the 400 metres at the Tokyo Olympics. We had 3 representatives in the Paris Olympic Games, and like, people underestimate what it takes to get to an Olympic Games. There's only 48 athletes in the world selected per event in some events, and we had 3 representatives. So
you're
it was
making it look
superb.
too easy nowadays.
Honestly,
isn't it?
It's just when you say things like that out loud, you know, I kind of just take a moment, because it was it's so brilliant, and it's over in a flash. But one thing that has happened that I think we all love athletics. It's amazing to watch. But shall we say, the beautification or the pressures that came with the sport, it was commented on so much in Tokyo, more so in Paris, of, you know, you looked incredible. Like, you did. You looked so good. I was like, I want my top not to be like that. How the hell are they doing that? It's unbelievable. Did you feel that? I don't want to diminish women's sport, but there was all of these sprinters, like, it was like model stuff.
The glam side of it, yeah. And I suppose for us it's a distraction as well. Because,
is it?
Like, even like you see us come out on the track, we have started warm up 2 hours before that, and then there's always a call room area where it's just you and your competitors doing the final checks before you actually go out on the track. So for us, that's our chance to like top up your makeup, fix your lipstick. But it's more so like a distraction for us. And we're there to help and support each other. And I suppose even in the morning that you're getting ready, like, we're there again getting ready together, doing your makeup, doing your hair. Like, Charlene loves doing my hair all the time. Different things like that, yeah.
Well, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
I think that's brilliant, because it can be really relaxing, and it's gorgeous. And there's that element of it. When you saw last year Charlene after a wedding, did you see that video clip?
Yes.
Of Charlene, probably had a good night, and then she was racing lads down the middle of the road. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It was about 6 o'clock in the morning after a wedding. Were you going, you're going to get injured after a blooming wedding?
I'd say our coach was.
A crack in the team.
Listen, I need to ask you about injuries as well, because you've had your fair share of injuries as well. You've obviously had this Hashimoto's disease that has affected your thyroid as well. How difficult has it been trying to balance that, look after yourself health-wise, but also still trying to be competing?
And that, I suppose, is the toughest part. And you know well, like, I've been blessed in my career injury-wise, but I have had the health struggles. And I suppose sometimes the health things are more difficult than the injury, because with an injury, you have a set road to recovery, you know that timeline. With the health stuff, you have no certainty when performance is actually going to return. So
you nearly quit before the Paris Olympics.
Exactly. So in 2023, I took myself off the relay panel. I felt I had nothing to offer the girls, and I certainly did not think I was going to make another Olympic Games. And I suppose a matter of months later, I was there with the girls. And for me, I suppose battling that thyroid condition, like, fatigue is the biggest factor. And as you know well in sport, fatigue, there's no room for fatigue. No. And it is carefully monitored and managed. But when you're pushing your body day in, day out, it does take its toll, and you never know what way it is going to respond. So that again was, I suppose, a contributing factor for me weighing up, will I retire, will I not? And even back in January, I was sitting in my consultant's office, and I was like, why am I so tired? I could sleep for 10 to 12 hours, wake up and feel like I haven't slept at all, or then I'll have to go for a nap during the day. So my medication has been doubled a lot in recent times. And then we did further tests, and I was diagnosed with PCOS, so that I suppose I cemented my fatigue. And I suppose it's important to raise awareness around different things like that as well for younger girls. That there might be something else going on. So they were certainly things that factored my decision for retiring, and I've been put on a 6-month trial of medication to try balance that. And we'll see from there.
I think there's a lot of women who are, and men, thyroid issues on the L-Traxin with Hashimoto's. And you were at Paris being amazing, and I'm like, I'm very tired today.
Hey, listen, I know you're a software engineer as well on the side. You're now working for Corn Market, involved in pensions and all sorts of stuff, pushing yourself to a new comfort zone, out of your comfort zone as well, Phil. We really look forward to seeing what the next chapter has for you as well, because what an ambassador for Irish sport and for so many boys and girls in the athletics field.
Super.
Phil Healy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll have Phil Healy in next week talking about pensions and the new pension plan. That's something we can do.
Absolutely.